on to a wonderful panel on the ancient healing traditions across the Indian subcontinent with Veer Singh. He's truly an extraordinary young man. The time that I've gotten to spend getting to know him, I treasure, and I call him my new best friend. A few of us were fortunate enough to be able to visit his new retreat, Vana Retreat, which is not yet open to the public. It will be opening in January. And it was an incredible, defining moment experience. His father talked about how it is a new paradigm in wellness and the commitment that they have there, but I could feel it in everything, his authenticity of commitment to everyone who walks through that door. And I think one way of seeing how deep his commitment goes is that even the staff has their own area where they do yoga, they have organic food, they do dancing, and can receive some of the treatments as well. So you feel that spirit of wellness through the people who work there as well. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and your expertise on ancient healing methods with us through this panel. Veer Singh.
I'm going to keep this very short. Before I start, I just want to say that I have had the benefit of being in His Holiness's presence a few times before, but I've never been so profoundly impacted by one of his sessions. So I don't know whether the stars were good today or his knee was better than other days. But I think we've experienced something quite momentous today, and I truly hope that we are able to give back for his teaching by perhaps practicing just a tiny bit of what he taught us today. So I think it was a very special day. So you keep seeing everybody in India always say namaste. I think a lot of you probably do know that it means I salute the divinity within you. So every time an Indian says namaste to you, he's recognizing the presence of some divine power within yourself, and he's also expressing his or her humility towards that. And we've been speaking a lot about the inward journey. But I'm glad we're doing this panel today because India and the Indian subcontinent is a very, very old culture, and we've made it this far, so there must have been something helping us along the way, though I do think we've gone a bit off track as of late. So it's only pertinent, the summit being in India this year, that we have a panel here to speak about Ayurvedic medicine, as well as about Tibetan traditional medicine, and then a couple of wonderful academic friends of mine to wrap that up. I'm going to make a very quick introduction. Dr. Deepika Gunawant has been practicing Ayurvedic medicine for more than 25 years. She was the chief Ayurvedic physician of a clinic in London, and the founder and president of the British Association of Accredited Ayurvedic Practitioners. Dr. Avilochan is a fifth-generation Ayurvedic doctor. He's very unique in that he's a Sikh gentleman and from the north of India, not something you typically associate Ayurveda with, but there you go. Ayurveda is a science of the entire country of India, not just Kerala. So he's been an Ayurvedic physician for 15 years. Mr. Tashi Tsering Phuri lived for more than a decade in the US as the director of the Tibetan Center in Chicago. He was the managing trustee of His Holiness's charitable trust, and now he's the director of the Men-Tsee-Khang, which is the Tibetan Medical and Astrological Institute set up by His Holiness the Dalai Lama himself, who preserved and has developed Tibetan medicine when he came to India in exile from Tibet. So it's wonderful to have him here today with us. Dr. Pushpesh Pant has been perusing wellness for 6 decades, as he likes to put it. He has a remarkable knowledge of ancient Indian history and culture, international relations and law. He studied and researched Ayurvedic medicine with traditional practitioners and written extensively on Indian cuisine. I have some of his books and they're quite wonderful. And everybody of course knows Professor Marc Cohen, who's a member on the board with us at the Global Spa and Wellness Summit. He's a professor of health sciences at RMIT University, where he leads an online Masters of Wellness program and conducts research. He has published numerous wellness-related research papers. And with that, I hand over to Dr. Deepika and Dr. Avilochan Singh. Thank you.
Namaste and a very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you, Veer, for that introduction. We have limitation on time, and so what I'll do is I'll straight away get on to the presentation. And this is going to be a joint presentation between me and my co-presenter, Dr. Avilochan Singh. So the first couple of slides will be taken up by Dr. Avilochan with regards to the origin, the history, the influence, the cross-cultural influence, and of course the concepts which form the basic framework of Ayurvedic medicine and Ayurvedic principles. Thereafter, I'll come back and conclude the presentation. Over to you, Avilochan.
Thank you, Dr. Deepika. Namaste, esteemed audience. I'll be taking you through a few basics of Ayurveda today for you, starting with the term Ayurveda itself. Ayurveda comprises of two Sanskrit words, Ayur and Veda, which means science of life. There's a Sanskrit slok mentioned here, which aptly emphasizes the emphasis on maintenance of positive health through preventive measures like daily routines, season adaptation, preventive personal hygiene, and proper diet. But we do not ignore treatment of diseases when any individual is affected. This kind of an approach gives Ayurveda truly holistic nature that is there. Ayurveda's origin and history. Ayurveda is approximately about 5,000 years old history, as it is evident in a text called Atharvaveda, which is part of the 4 Vedas that we have in the Indian philosophy. Ayurveda has its roots in all these ancient texts that we have in the Indian philosophy. In the Atharvaveda, Ayurveda was actually mentioned in form of mantras, amulets, sacred rites, purificatory rites, fasting, and a number of herbs and their therapeutic properties were also discussed in these texts in a verse form. Since its origin, Ayurveda was taught verbally, a part of Guru Shishya Parampara, and finally it culminated into the textual form, starting with Charak, which started the traditional Ayurveda general medicine, and Shushruta, which started an ancient form of Ayurveda general surgery. Later on, a lot of more important texts were written, which shows a lot of dominant intellectual influence of various Indian philosophies and also philosophies of regions around India. Out of these texts, a lot of them became our reference books for our curriculum and our course study and our guiding principles for us today as doctors when we are studying and practicing. The next slide which I'll show you is to do with the Ayurvedic concepts. There are vast canvas of Ayurvedic principles that we have, but I'm discussing only 4 most important ones which affect our practice or understanding of Ayurveda. These are dosha, prakriti, agni, and ama. The doshas, most of you would be already knowing what, must have heard the term doshas. Doshas are the biological and functional units that are responsible for most of our bodily functions. It is the balance and the imbalance of these doshas in the body that determine our health and ill health. There are 3 doshas, Vat, Pit, Kaph, and they are responsible for our individual traits that each of us are born with, and they determine our genetic code, which in Ayurveda is called Prakriti. While we are all born with all the doshas in our body, it's the predominance of one of these doshas over the other that decides our personality type, each of us having an individual characteristic trait that we have. A lot of research is happening now on personalized nutrition based on this genetic type. The next concept is Agni, which is digestive enzymes. The physiological state of a gut or a digestive ability modulates the sensory and the metabolic activity of an individual. And the effect of the gut on the broad health of an individual is these days highly recognized. In Ayurveda, instead of saying we are what we eat, it is more accurate to say we are what we digest. We can eat everything that we want, but we might not be able to digest everything that we eat. So that is very important in Ayurveda, because everything in Ayurveda starts with your diet, your digestion, and your gut. The last concept I'm going to take up is ama, which is again related to Agni. It's basically a byproduct of indigestion. Why? Because if the Agni gets impaired or has some significant impairment due to the vitiation of the doshas that we have in our body, our digestion weakens up, and this causes undigested food to accumulate in the surfaces of our body. That produces a toxin which is called ama. And in Ayurveda, the belief is that this toxin, underlying toxin accumulation, that is an underlying cause of most of the diseases. And in the recent research also, it has been recognized that is the gut and its digestibility, which is becoming the cause of most of the disease that we are suffering from. So thank you. I have just discussed a little bit briefly for you about the Ayurveda principles. I hand over to Dr. Deepika to continue to talk.
Thank you, Avilochan. Continuing from where Dr. Avilochan left, I'll be talking about the treatment principles. Now, we're all very excited about what Ayurveda has to offer, whether it is the drugs, diet, lifestyle, or the Panchakarma, which is catching up very fast with the international audience. But let me tell you, the first and the foremost principle that we follow is removal of the causative factors, the removal or abstinence from the etiological factors. That's very important. Disregarding this particular principle is somewhat I related to mopping a floor under an overflowing sink and not turning the faucet off. You continue with what you want, and then you expect the drugs or the diet to give you the results. That doesn't happen. Though we all have a genetic predisposition, but there's something that's within our own control. And that's where we should see that if the causative factors keep persisting, then the treatment doesn't work. So that's why importance has been laid to the removal of the causative factors. Thereafter, drugs, diet, lifestyle, Panchakarma is of course there. We all know that drugs cannot and will not overcome a poor and unhealthy diet or a lifestyle. So therefore, reliance on drug is also not acceptable. Panchakarma, we all know that it is 5 purificatory measures which are adapted for rejuvenation, for detoxification, for various other purposes. That's just the codes for a healthy living that we see in our textbooks. I'll not go into the details of these codes due to limited time. Panchakarma, many of you would know what it really means. It is 5 procedures which involves Vaman, which is emesis, purgation, then enemata, Shirovirechana, which is nasal errhines, and then the Raktamokshan, which is bloodletting. Now, all of this may not be relevant in your country. You may only want to do the first three, or the Virechana and the Vasti and the Shirovirechana. Now, Panchakarma is something which has to be done in sequence. There are pre-Panchakarma measures, there are post-Panchakarma measures. So if you think that by getting into a retreat or a resort and you take up a Abhyanga, which is a Panchakarma, which is actually not, which is only a pre-Panchakarma measure, you are not taking Panchakarma in its full form. Therefore, you need to do it for 21 days or 28 days. Walking in and taking, just for a day, that's not Panchakarma. Let me, because we all live in a world of evidence-based medicine, we are looking for scientific validation. I thought I must share this clinical research that has happened in US. It's an NCAM sponsored, supported research, and it is a wonderful research. Why I chose this particular research, there are other research, clinical researches that have happened on Panchakarma, but I chose this particular one for one simple reason. If you look at this, Panchakarma methods of treatment help in adherence to new and healthier behavioral changes. So you can stay off, come off from your habits which you want to change. So Panchakarma is something which will help you to go into healthier habits, healthier lifestyle, and and achieve what you want in a retreat. Meditation and structural changes and cognitive functions improving in meditation. We heard a lot from His Holiness this morning, so I'll not go into the details. This is something that I wanted to share with you, integration. This is again a study that has happened on 23,000 people. It's about diet, nutrition, and lifestyle. And in about 23,000 people, they were evaluated for 4 simple behaviors. If you resorted to 4 simple behaviors like not smoking, exercising 3.5 hours in a week, maintaining a healthy weight, BMI, and a healthy diet, you could stay away or prevent 93% of diabetes, 81% of heart attacks, 50% of strokes, and 36% of all cancers. So I thought purposely to include the slide for the simple reason, if you now go back and look at this Panchakarma research, you can relate the two. If you have to change your habits for better, you will always take these Panchakarma measures and get on with your new and healthier lifestyles. A bit on the regulatory aspects in India. We have a Ministry of Health, under which we have the Department of Ayush, and A stands for Ayurveda, Y stands for Yoga, U stands for Unani, S stands for Siddha, S again stands for Soa Ripa, which is the Tibetan medicine, and H for homeopathy. So there is a department which controls and regulates these traditional systems in India. And under this department, there are various councils that control the educational standards, the professional standards. We have a council that regulates and monitors all research that's happening. And then we have another council that controls all the products that are manufactured in India and whether they are following the GMP guidelines or not. We have about 250 accredited universities teaching Ayurveda, 400,000 registered Ayurvedic practitioners alone, 1,000 Ayurvedic hospitals and research centers, and 8,000 Ayurvedic manufacturing units. Just a bit to discuss on the global trends. We all know it's a very complex scenario at the moment, and we have been hearing about it as far as wellness is concerned. But I know there's an international appeal to our traditional concepts, but again, one regulation that fits all doesn't exist. So absence of uniform regulation has led to each country describing the CAM methods, the traditional methods, the natural health products methods, whatever. So a country like US, you can send in an Ayurvedic medicine as a botanical or as a dietary supplement. The same product goes as a natural health product in Canada. The same product goes as a European traditional herbal medicine in Europe. So each country has its own national policy, and so they decide which particular product will go under which category. Similar is the case with the wellness centers and integrative centers. It's again the national authority, health authority, that decides what will form a part of the wellness center or the integrative center. That's a bit on the global market. I'll skip that. Now coming to the main aspect of the presentation, which is the wellness. I must tell you, it's, according to me, a new wine in an old wine in a new bottle. I'm sorry, old wine in a new bottle, because the concepts of wellness, the principles of wellness was so well into the whole system of Ayurveda, the philosophy of Ayurveda. So I'll just quickly show you some of the verses that I picked up from a philosophical text, which talk about all the dimensions of health in Ayurveda. This is a verse that I've taken from the Ashtanga Hridaya Samhita, which is our textbook that we studied in internal medicine. Wellness has always been a starting point for us as far as treating of diseases and also leading a healthy lifestyle. It's all been mentioned in the chapters in our internal medicine books. And finally, we are all talking about individual wellness, community wellness. There is something that we see in our Upanishads, which are our philosophy texts, and we talk about universal wellness. May all be happy, may all be without a disease, may all see the good and well-being of others, may all be free from misery. Thank you.
Warm greetings to all who have gathered here. joining together, shaping the future. At a time when the healing system receiving more and more appreciation globally, we're happy that Tibetan medical system stands out as one of the most well-integrated healing systems. During the reign of the 38th Tibetan Emperor Tsering in the 8th century, the first international conference on medicine was held at Samye Monastery in Tibet. That conference was participated by many famous physicians from Tibet, India, China, Nepal, Mongolia, Persia, etc. Yutok Yondeng Gompo, who is known as the father of Tibetan medicine, synthesized the best knowledge of all these traditions and composed Yushi, or the four tantras. This is the main text not only studied in Tibet by the Tibetans in exile, but also in neighboring places such as Mongolia, Nepal, Bhutan, Himalayan states of India. Although traditional Tibetan medicine has a history of more than 2,500 years, the works of Yutok Yondeng Gompo in the 8th century, the establishment of Chakpuri Medical College by the great 5th Dalai Lama in 1696, the establishment of the Men-Tsee-Khang by the great 13th Dalai Lama in Lhasa in 1916, and the re-establishment of Men-Tsee-Khang by the present Dalai Lama in India in 1961 are historic. The uniqueness of this healing system is its integration with Buddhist philosophy as well as astrological aspects in determining the diseases and maintaining complete health care. Unhappiness or mental disturbance leading to stress, anxiety, depression is becoming one of the major conditions in this hectic world, and these are directly linked with many emerging diseases such as hypertension, heart diseases, diabetes, insane, early aging, etc. Tibetan medicine can contribute immensely in the management of mental health through the concept of Buddhist principle, where the theory of maintaining the mind into peace is broadly explained. Mind being an inseparable integrate of the physical body, Tibetan medical concept of understanding the health and disease lies not only to the physical factors, but emotional factors. Buddhist concepts of compassion, love, joy, equanimity, etc. are deeply attached in the practice of Tibetan medicine. On the basis of three unique diagnostic techniques, pulse reading, urine analysis, and questioning, entire physical and psychological problem is diagnosed and appropriate treatment applied accordingly. Diet regimen, behavioral regimen, medicine, and therapies are applied in order. Tibetan medicine should be subjected to more scientific tests. These days, we are not merely contented with wide, consumer-driven demands for Tibetan medicine. We are also making concerted efforts to invite medical scientists to carry out research on time-tested Tibetan medicine. In fact, we have done and are doing collaborative researches with All India Institute of Medical Science, Emory University, USA, Wisconsin University, USA. His Holiness this morning mentioned about clinical death, but not death according to Tibetan doctors. That's one research we're doing with Dr. Richard Davison in Wisconsin, the Men-Tsee-Khang. And Portland College, USA, University of Vienna, Austria, Hadassah Medical Organization, Israel, etc. A few of the Tibetan medicine baffle scientists and researchers. Interestingly, these are very effective medicines. His Holiness the Dalai Lama suggests that these be kept aside for the time being as something mysterious. We hope for a time when scientists can shed some light. For example, the moonlight prepared calcite medicine, Chongxi Dawe. The ingredients are simple, calcite with cow's milk. This preparation is specifically done under the moonlight of the 15th day of the 8th month, according to Tibetan lunar calendar, to obtain the mysterious moonlight strength. It is believed that the intensity of the coolness of moonlight is in balanced state, increases the potency of mineral Chongxi on that particular day. This preparation is then used to compound various medicines like Tatu, Tashi, Rinje, and etc. Similarly, Men-Tsee-Khang also conducted researches twice on detoxified mercury in the form of tsote to see its toxicity and safety. Research concluded with no evidence of any adverse effects from the use of detoxified mercury in the form of tsote as an ingredient in Tibetan medicine. During the recent 3-day conference on Tibetan medicine, attended by about 200 plus doctors from 22 countries, His Holiness the Dalai Lama said during an audience for the participants, "I am 77 years old and take tsotel regularly. There is no sign of poison in my body." Spiritual practice in Tibetan medicine include occupying oneself by reciting mantra while preparing medicine, doing therapies, performing special ritual sessions on special days, daily prayers before the day's work are some of the regular habits as a practitioner of Tibetan medicine. Spirituality is a must in every step of Tibetan physician and support while in action. For example, one popular stanza would be roughly translated like this: "May merely seeing my face brings relief. May medication and therapies not be incorrect. May all my foresight be true and all compounded medicine be beneficial. May all prescribed medicines bring benefits like the sun and the moon." And it's often chanted with the tune, "Ta tuan zam ye ne be wu jin xin, men je lok pa nam ya mi zhuan xin, ma zhe ngui xie zha zhe men tu yu, dang zhe pen do ni dar da zhun shu." During a sold-out huge public event with His Holiness the Dalai Lama in the United States, a woman asked him after his afternoon talk, "Your Holiness, you had a very busy schedule today, but your face this afternoon is as fresh as this morning. What is the secret of this, Your Holiness?" Holding his chin, he said, "This is because of Tibetan medicine." Finally, I wish to end my talk quoting His Holiness the Dalai Lama again. "Mankind needs a healthy mind and a healthy body, and in both the areas, we Tibetans can contribute substantially, although we ourselves live as refugees." Thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have a confession to make. Deep down in my heart, I know I'm the only one who doesn't belong here. Ever since I remember, I have been a wellness challenged person. And why I'm here is, I think, the subtle, ultra-soft, persuasive powers of Veer that have landed me here. So here goes. When I was young and I was being bored with lessons about bees and birds, those who were older, stronger, better looking, smarter, more crooked maybe, were having fun and games with adult games. So their wellness was evident to me and I was feeling pretty unwell. I grew up and I have crossed the threshold of old age. The situation hasn't changed. As I was sitting here yesterday listening to those rosy-cheeked, brighter-eyed Japanese and Chinese, and I started having pangs of envy again, that even in this old age, wellness seems to elude me. You have all the scientific solutions. You have the references to peer group reviewed cited journals in Science and Nature and Journal of Cognitive Sciences. They have the least impact on my manic excitement or dark depression. It doesn't help me at all. All my learning, which my good friend is underlining, has not helped me. Like His Holiness said in the morning, you try hard, but the pain in the knee doesn't disappear. I have other problems. I have my problem. My quest for wellness has been compromised, put in serious jeopardy by Eros, by Thanatos all the time. And all this, very briefly what I want to share with you is, I have always been confused. Does wellness reside within, like the musk deer who looks for it all around? What about the without? What about the changing cycle of seasons? What about the rest of the world? As Sartre said, hell is other people. So how do I cope with them? In India, there is an aphorism which says, Santosham paramam sukham. Contentment is the ultimate bliss. How do I find contentment? It is said that seek and you will find it. Yoga and Ayurveda will be a quick fix solution. And may I be forgiven, because I'm going to, there is another phrase in India which says, don't make a hole in the platter on which you are eating. So here we are in this business, but I don't belong to either the business of medicine or tourism industry or the spa business. But I think the problem is that if we think that ancient traditions have just one, as the lady said, Goldilocks, one size can't fit all. There is no just one right fit. Even ancient traditions, the Chinese, the Tibetan, the Unani, the Greek, but I think even the Indian tradition, ancient traditions, has such diversity, such bewildering diversity, that there is more to wellness in this country than yoga and Ayurveda. Very briefly, I think people forget another equally ancient text, Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra, which talks of rasa siddhant. And ras, crudely translated, is the sap of life. And that is what contributes to, there is another ancient text, besides Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, which says, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, still your mind and you will find bliss, contentment, happiness, wellness maybe. All of you know the story of 5 blind men and the elephant being tried to identify tusks, the tails, the tuskers, the ears, whatever. But then we had a great philosopher in this country called Shankar, who was trying to grapple with the concept of the supreme cosmic reality. And he said, neti, neti, neti. It is not this, it is not this, it is not this. I know, hair are gone, they were grey much before that. I know that wellness is not that either. So where does this leave us? There is no quick fix. You seek and you maybe find wellness, the luckier ones among you. But what happens to it? Attaining wellness is not enough. You have to retain it somehow. You must cling on to it, otherwise you lose it again. You regain your lost youth, you revitalize yourself, you rejuvenate yourself. Everything is re. So you must retain your wellness, and this ultimately to me seems to be a pretty confusing thing, which is not a destination, but a journey. And I go back to Robert. No. I mean, I think Robert Louis Stevenson has the last word on this. He says it is better to travel hopefully than to arrive. And where you come in, the spa people, the $1,000 a night business, I think it is better to travel first class than to arrive if the journey is not going to be ending at all in near future. So you might as well travel first class, and the spas are there. But I would very strongly request you to add a bit of rasa to the yoga part. So those of us who want to probably, there is another very nice ancient rishi of ours, Chavana Rishi, who fell in love with the king's daughter and asked the king to give the princess's hand to him. The king parted with the daughter, but the desire was there, but the performance was missing in the rishi. So he concocted for himself a lava potion called Chavana Prash, which is one of the major hard-selling products of Ayurveda. So I think, the problem is, that's why I am here. Partly because of his persuasion and partly because I have not lost hope. So maybe there is something which will work. In Portnoy's complaint, when the father hears about the nuclear experiment and the atomic blast, he says, maybe my constipation can be cured now. So I am one of those eternal optimists who believe that so far I have not got it, but maybe one of these days, one of these spas, Vana or somewhere else, I will find wellness. And I think one last thing, I think part of the problem with wellness is that most of us don't want wellness. We want something more than wellness. We want bliss, we want euphoria, we want ecstasy. And that is what takes us to recreational, not so recreational suicidal drugs. It takes us to wild paths and mazes where we get our paths lost. But I think, Doc, the diversity is there, paths are many, and over to you. Thank you.
Do we have some slides? I know it's been a long day and I've been given the task of wrapping ancient healing up, pointing to modern developments, and I have some slides to go through. Back. But when you say what is wellness, connection to self, nature and community. And at the moment, connection to self when we talked about that mindfulness, but nature now is the whole planet and community is the whole global community. And ultimately wellness requires health and happiness, which we've spent a bit of focus about. We've talked about sustainability, but this, I mean, a lot of business people here, and wellness also means prosperity and actually intimacy and that personal connection. And the spa industry is actually the key industry that has commercialised personal connection. And so I think this industry has a huge role to play in the wellness of the world. But when you look at the wellness of the world, ancient healing traditions weren't just there to heal. They were there to be holistic. But I'm going to compare Chinese medicine to Ayurvedic medicine. Chinese medicine has a much more successful reactive approach. And we've talked about reaction versus proaction on the health illness spectrum. And if you look at Chinese medicine as it is applied to Western healthcare, it's an energetic perspective with the flow of qi. But Chinese herbs have gone around the planet, and everyone knows tea. It's a stimulant, it helps you react. Everyone knows martial arts, helps you react to some sort of aggression. And Chinese medicine actually has taken over the world. The yellow areas here are where Chinese medicine is actually regulated around the planet. If we look at Ayurvedic medicine though, it's a much more proactive approach. We've been told about prakriti, the doshas, it's personalised. It's a nutritional perspective, it's food as medicine, and it's about stimulating your agni, your digestive fire, and eliminating ama, your toxins. And the ultimate herb in Ayurvedic medicine is tulsi, or holy basil, which is the ultimate adaptogen. So it's not a herb that treats any disease, it's a herb you take every day to prevent disease. And similarly, yoga is not an exercise that you do to react to something, it's an exercise you do every day as part of your lifestyle to prevent disease. And Ayurvedic medicine has a much wider lifestyle approach. Yet when we look at Ayurvedic medicine, it's the yellow area where it's regulated. So comparing Chinese medicine to Ayurvedic medicine, we see that as a lifestyle approach, Ayurvedic medicine hasn't penetrated the Western healthcare system, and that's because Western healthcare is actually reactive. We're moving to an illness approach, and we need to, because 60% of all the deaths on the planet are now due to chronic disease. So physical activity, unhealthy diet, but salt, sugar, fat, alcohol, and tobacco, and environmental toxins. And actually, modern science is actually now confirming what the ancient Vedas were talking about. So and I'm going to give you a quick scientific overview where prakriti is now observed with genomics, and nutrigenomics, pharmacogenomics, toxicogenomics, and now ayurgenomics, where your genetic profile can dictate your drugs, your nutrition. 10 years ago, the human genome was sequenced, it cost $3 billion. Now you can do it for $1,000. So there's been a huge development of scientific understanding. With agni, the ancient Vajras knew about digestive fire. There's a new organ that was discovered about 10 years ago called the microbiome. It's your gut bacteria. There's 10 times as many gut bacteria in your stomach as there are human cells in your whole body. And there's actually a new startup company called the Ubiome where you can send a sample of your feces or your nose swab to a site in the US by post, and they will give you your enterotype and allow citizen science to happen via post, via email. So understanding your microbiome controls your digestion, your exposure to toxins. AMA is about toxins, and there's a whole field of metabolomics, proteomics, transcriptomics, and the exposome, which is a scientific understanding of your toxic exposure throughout your life. And I want to expand on that, and I've got 5 minutes to give a 60-minute talk, but toxins are the elephant in the room. They're seldom considered as risk factors for chronic disease, and there are 10 toxic truths that that are not controversial, that affect all of us. And I'm going to go through them very quickly. You're going to get the headlines. The slide's going to be on the website. But toxins are everywhere. They're in everybody. We're all affected. The full extent is unknown. And Terry talked about this, that everywhere, we're all interdependent. The extent is unknown. There's uncertainty. Tiny doses cause big effects. There's non-linearity. The World Health Organization put out this document early this year. Endocrine disrupting chemicals affect all of us in doses 1,000 times lower than the regulation that was considered safe. Chemical cocktails are synergistic. It's not the toxin, it's a mixture that has effect. Two things that have no effect by themselves together have an effect. It's called something from nothing. Windows of development are critical. It's not what you're exposed to in the mixture, it's when you're exposed to them. And we know that the fetus is particularly vulnerable. Children are much more at risk. Children have actually higher toxic exposure and they're less capable to cope with that toxic exposure. Biomagnification happens up the food chain, up to 10 million times higher in predatory animals than in plants, and good reason to be a vegetarian. Bioaccumulation happens over the lifespan. Our ability to excrete is less than our ability to accumulate toxins, especially our fatty tissue. And there's not much fat in the fetus, most of it's in the fetal brain, so that gets transferred into the next generation through the fetal brain. And it's the fatty tissues that become cancerous in older people. Effects are epigenetic and transgenerational. Exposure to a mother or a father not only affects her and her children, but 3 generations down. Injustice and accidents happen. Exposure is not equal, depends on where you live, how you live. Higher income people have different exposures to lower income people, but we're all exposed. And there's been catastrophic accidents in every stage of the life cycle that's exposed vast populations, from extraction, BP oil spill, transport, Exxon Valdez, manufacture, Bhopal, use, Fukushima and Chernobyl, disposable love canal, where vast populations have been exposed to toxins that we're still trying to mop up. So is there evidence-based for detox? In the medical world, which I'm a medical doctor, detox means drug and alcohol detox. In the spa world, it means environmental detox. But I reviewed the evidence on this and said, is it a science or a sales pitch? And at the moment, it's a sales pitch. There's no clinical trials that show reductions of toxins improve health. And in fact, there's only one, not even rigorous clinical trial that's done on fat-soluble toxins, and it was done in a spa. In a spa in Iowa, the Maharishi Ayurvedic Panchakarma program showed that you can reduce fat-soluble toxins by 50% after a 2-week Panchakarma program. But they actually didn't look at health benefits. And I believe the first company that has an evidence-based detox program is going to do really well, but the research still has not been done. But we do know that wellness lifestyle reduces toxins, and really basic things like removing your shoes at home, minimising food packaging, eating fresh organic food, hand washing, indoor plants, all reduce your toxic load. And these are all lifestyle prescriptions that are in the science of Ayurveda, the science of life. Many questions remain. What are the toxins? How do we get them? Which populations are there? How does detoxification improve health outcomes? There's a lot of research that still needs to be done. But this is the future, and there's a whole disruptive innovation coming with personalised wellness-focused medicine, and it's a convergence, and Claire talked about it a bit. The quantified self movement, where we can measure our health data, the fact that you can have now sensor technology. There's only 4 countries in the world that measure toxins in the population. The US is one of them, Germany, Canada, and the now European Union. But it costs about $20,000 per person to measure those toxins. Well, now you can put a lab on a chip, and there's a few technologies that do this. You can plug that chip into your mobile phone, and you can, it's about 3 to 5 years away. Everyone will have their own personal toxin measurement. They can do it on their urine, they can do it on their food, they can do it in their environment. And there's initiatives that's already happening. So when we get mobile devices, and there's a concept called the smartphone physical, look it up, it's quite amazing, it's going to revolutionise healthcare. And then once you've got your physical, you can do big data cloud computing, and then peer-to-peer networking of that data will allow us all to map toxins globally, to map wellness globally, and really for us all to join in and create wellness as a team for the planet. So health, happiness, prosperity, sustainability, and intimacy or humanity. And I'd like to finish on that personal note. Veer talked about it, it's the namaste. I honour the place in you where the entire universe resides, the place of love, bliss and truth. And I recognise when you're in that place in you and I'm in that place in me, we are one. And that's that interpersonal connection that everyone in this hotel, you go around India, that's what they mean when they say namaste. And I think that's what this industry captures, and I think the opportunities are there, and it's critical. So if we don't get it right, we're not going to have not just wellness for ourselves, we're not going to have a planet to live on, and we're not going to survive. So I think there's a huge opportunity, there's huge hope, and I think this industry is the lever that can really leverage that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all my panelists for giving us an insight into ancient healing traditions on caffeine. I'm sure it was so. I'm sorry it was so quick, but I hope you will take some time out to speak with them. I think, in essence, what we were trying to portray was that there is a lot of potential, and I suppose it's India and the Indian subcontinent's role to try and showcase that to the world. So thank you very much.